Have a Super 73 ZX and wondering, will the fenders that come from Super 73 actually work on it? Well, let's find out today. Welcome to the Vapor Trail channel. I'm Tony, and if you know me, you know that I have definitely caught the e-mobility bug. I love my electric skateboards, my electric bikes, and I probably will have an electric scooter before it's all said and done, you know? I love this stuff. Not only is it fun, but it's economical, and, well, you know, if we get into a situation where you can't get gas, no problem, I got electricity. A while back, I bought myself a Super 73 ZX, and I got my wife the Super 73 Z1. And, well, if you're in the US, they do not come with fenders. If you're in the EU, it's, I guess, required by law that they sell it with fenders on it. So if you want the fenders here, you've got to buy them. Basically, as accessories, there are companies, third-party companies like Blur Boundaries that do fantastic work, but Super 73 does have a set of fenders that they technically sell for the Z1, but I was told that they would work on the ZX, so as soon as I found them on stock, because they're not always in stock on their website, as soon as I found them on there, I picked them up. Now, I was told they're compatible, but doing some reading, because I'm a bit of a geek, I did find that there's potentially some pitfalls to trying to put these on there, like compatibility issues. In fact, after I ordered them, I got a notification from Super 73 saying, your order's going to take a little bit longer because while we have these in stock, we found that the bolts that are in there, a couple of them weren't long enough, so as soon as they got those, they sent them on to me. So earlier today, because I knew there were some potential pitfalls with this, I did film the actual installation of them on the ZX, and I talk a little bit about the Z1. The Z1's pretty straightforward. They have a video on the Super 73 website if you're interested in installing on there. But there are some big differences between those bikes in the parts and how everything goes together. So yes, I did make a few mistakes while installing these, and well, I left them in there so that you could learn from my mistakes. Now, mind you, when you get this kit, there are no instructions inside the box. So does the official Super 73 Fender kit fit on the ZX? Well, let's find out. So this is what the box looks like. It's a pretty small box, and inside of it, you're going to have your fender, and then underneath that, that's the back fender. You've got the front splash guard, and then there's a smaller fender in there and hardware inside the small box. And inside the box, you're going to find your hardware and the small fender inside the smaller box that was underneath the splash guard and the fender. We've got the two brackets right here that are going to go onto the back fender, and that's what attaches to the frame. This right here is a bracket that you'll use if you have the Z1. With the ZX, you don't use this bracket. It just mounts directly to the frame. I'm pretty sure that this is intended for the Z1, but they also sell it so that it can be used with the ZX, because I don't think the ZX has its own fender kit except for in the EU. And because of that, well, the front forks on the ZX are different than the Z1. On the Z1, you've got 3 holes that mount directly to the front forks, and you're going to use some basic bolts. Also on the ZX, there are only 2 holes, the ones on the outside, and that's why I'm assuming that they included these 2 bolts, because they had originally said that the bolts that were included in the package were too small, so they delayed shipment of it. But it'll work for now, but I'm definitely going to replace them. To install all of these, you're going to either need a crescent wrench, or like this right here is nice. It's a robo grip. It'll grab onto just about anything and hold it. And then you'll need a 6mm Allen wrench and a 3mm Allen wrench. If you were installing this on a Z1, the first thing you would do is you would install this bracket on there, and then that is going to attach to, well, maybe it goes this way. Either way, you're going to install this bracket on here, and then that will attach to the frame with this right here. On the ZX, there are 2 holes in the bottom part of the frame that these just bolt onto. All right, so before we move over to the bike, we're just going to install a couple of things. Like I said, first you would install that. If it's a Z1, you'd put this bracket on there. We're not going to worry about that. This being the ZX, we're going to start with putting these brackets on here. So you're going to put the fat end on the inside of it, and we're going to put one of these bolts through it. And this one here, the hole is really not reamed very well. I'll just use a knife and make sure that that's reamed out so that we can get that bolt through there. You're going to want to put a washer on that bolt. There we go, just like that. Then you want to get the bent part of the bracket like that. We'll just put a nut on the back of it. Once you get that finger tight, you're going to want to hold on to it like this. And then we'll use the 3mm Allen wrench to tighten it up. You don't want to get it all the way tight. You just want to get it so that it's on there, but you will tighten it later when we get it on the bike. All right, so you want it to be able to move. There we go. So we've got both of these brackets on the fender. So if you were putting this on a Z1, then you would be using these for that front fender. Again, we're going to be using these temporarily just to get it on there, and then I will find some new bolts for it. So just as a little bit of prep work, I'm going to pair up each one of these with a washer. Now there are two sizes of these, all right? So there's a longer one and a shorter one. So basically what's left right here is what I'm gonna be using for the rest of this installation. I don't know if you can really tell, but those holes are actually threaded. So what I did is I was like, okay, well, let's see, that's definitely not gonna fit. But this, well, that goes right through, but it doesn't thread in there. And look how far that sticks out. So I mean, for a temporary fix, it'll be fine. I will go to the hardware store and find the correct bolts. This is kind of my makeshift Super73 garage. It's my closet. Yeah, we fit them both inside of here. But I wanted to show you on the Z1, it just has that one little plate back there. So you're going to need the bracket in order to attach it to the bike. And on the ZX, you've actually got two holes and a plate right there. So that fender just comes right down, boop, and attaches to those. And as far as that front fender, you'll see it's just a thin plate with 3 holes there. You'll just use those big fat bolts, as opposed to the thick plate on there and only 2 holes. Both bikes have that attachment point right there though. I guess we'll just start first things first with the front fender. So we're gonna put those bolts through there. All right, so now that I have those bolts through there, I'm just gonna go ahead and put that on just like that. We'll put a nut on the back of it. I mean, you can't really see them underneath this fender, so I suppose it's all right, but I don't know. I just feel like it should be more secure, more tight, and not have bolts sticking out the bottom. It's going to take a lot longer to tighten these. Like a whole lot longer, because they're so darn long. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and tighten these up because it's going to take a little bit of time, then we'll come back. All right, front fender is installed. And it seems to be pretty solid, but like I say, I think I'd like to replace those bolts, maybe even get some black ones so that they match, okay? So the next thing I'm gonna do is put the splash guard on here. I guess it's a fender, but so what you're gonna do is you're gonna see it has 2 protrusions on that, and those are gonna slide in here. You just wanna line them up with 2 of the holes. There are 4 holes on this, and I've actually got a Irv Labs basket that I wanna put on this thing later, so I wanna make sure that I've still got a couple of holes here. And just so I know where the holes are, and I'm going to use the top one. There we go. Well, I thought these were long enough to get through there, but maybe not. Okay, so after trying to put this thing on here and realizing that these longer bolts aren't actually what's going to do that, it's got to be these 2 bolts that are in here. And wow, okay. That means I got to take this front fender off, use those 2 bolts, and then I'm going to have to get bolts in order to put that front fender on there. All right, now that I've taken the front fender off, I will have to find some new bolts and nuts for that. But now I have the appropriate stuff for this. So let's go ahead and do that. And this splash guard, I think, is kind of an important thing because anything that's flying up off of this tire is just flying right up onto you. So this will help a lot. All right, so I put the washers on those bolts. I'm going to put this lined up with the highest one on here. And again, to help line that up, I'm just going to put the wrench through it, put it like this, and there we go. That's 1 and 2. Lined up. And we'll just tighten them up. Well, that was easy. Get them nice and snug. Well, so far that is the easiest part, and I have a feeling it will remain to be the easiest part. Well, so aside from the bolts being wrong for that front fender, this really hasn't been that difficult at all. Okay, this one I'm just going to feed this through like that. And basically we're going to put 2 bolts through there with nuts on the back of them, and then these brackets will attach to the attachment point right there. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and put these on. So because there are no instructions, it's all kind of trial and error, but we've got the 2 big bolts and nuts there, and then we've got the 2 smaller bolts and nuts there with washers. And what I've already done is put one of the smaller bolts with the washer into that and through these brackets on the side, just to kind of hold it in place while I'm putting the rest of it together here. Got the washers on the screws. I'm going to pull this forward I'll put that through like that. This may be tricky because it's a little tight. Okay, there's one. I find that you kind of have to go up underneath just to get it threaded on there. And they're lock nuts, so they have that plastic in there, which is going to make it so that they won't turn past a certain point. So let's get this. Sure seems like this would be a lot easier if this was done when the bike was not assembled, but that's okay, we'll get it done. I'm not going to tighten them all the way, I'm just going to get them kind of loosely tightened on here. Get your crescent wrench or whatever you're using up underneath. Now it's slotted here so that this can move up and down if it needs to. We'll get this through there, put a nut on the back of it, and we'll come around the other side and do the same thing. Now so far I've been using the 3mm Allen wrench, got the 5mm coming up here. Now these also have slots in them on the brackets so that they can adjust up or down. I'm going to kind of leave them loose at first so that they can go up or down until I get everything all tightened up. We'll try to get it all as neat and tidy as possible. Like I said, I'm not sure that this set was actually made for this bike. It's listed under the Z1 on the website, but they said it's compatible with the ZX. Dang it, that looks pretty good actually, all right off the bat. Okay, so we'll just loosen it up a little bit. And I think what I want to do is pull these all the way to the top of the brackets. I just want it to sit off of the tire a little bit, and that looks pretty darn good. We'll finish tightening them up all the way. And that looks pretty even all the way across the board. Now I have these bolts all the way at the top of the little slidey things. So yeah, I'll go ahead and tighten those up all the way. And that is on, so there we go. Well, so we were able to put this one and this one on here. Gonna have to get some bolts for that. So there's still 2 of those available for accessories, and we're gonna have to do something about that front fender. Back here, those are on securely. That is on securely, as is that. I may want to make sure those are tightened up too. But I gotta say, it does look good. I was kind of like, well, we'll see how the fenders look on there, but they look good. And that's gonna prevent mud and water and stuff from getting up under there. All right, so I had to go to the hardware store and pick up some new hardware for this. I understand. I mean, they've got several different models of bikes, and maybe this wasn't exactly specifically intended for this bike. Everything else fit really well. Just short a couple of bolts and nuts, and I was able to easily find them by going to the hardware store. Now, what I did, let me show you. I took my bike down there so that I could actually make sure that these things fit. So I got metric, I got 6mm. I cannot remember the length on these. They're just a little bit longer than the actual thickness of the fork plate at the top of the forks. Made sure to get them Allen, you know, hex head. I got washers for them. And on these, the pitch on these is 1.00. That way it actually threads directly into the plate that's at the top there because it's got threads on it. So what I'll do is I'll thread these through there, put the fender on there, and tighten it up. Should be done. Real quick note, I got these in black, but I couldn't find black washers. I got smaller washers though, so that they'll fit right underneath the heads of these. And then I got larger washers for underneath the fender where the bolt will be holding it on, or the nut. Okay, so I'll just thread these in there. Yeah, these fit perfectly in the threads on the bike itself. These are sort of fine threads, so it takes a while to thread this through there, but I think it'll make it real secure. Okay, so you can see that they're sticking out down there at the bottom, and it's enough that I can get a nut on there and a washer. It's sticking out a tiny little bit. You could probably go a little bit shorter than I did on this. I just wanted to make sure, because I didn't actually have the fender down there with me. Okay, so those outer 2 holes on here, you're not gonna worry about the middle one. They're gonna slide onto those 2 bolts. Put the washer on there, put this nut on there. Tighten that up. This other one, stick that on here. whole heck of a lot easier than the first way I tried to put this on here, I'll tell you that. Yeah, that's nice and solid. All right. Okay, there we go. You can see that they're sticking out a little bit down there, but not too bad. And everything is nicely tightened on there. Can't see that third hole up here or anything either, so looking good. I think we're ready to go. I think that is it. Is it done? So I'm not one to shy away when there's no manual inside the box. I'm like, there's bolts and parts. I'm sure I could assemble this thing. I did watch their official video on installing on the Z1, so I thought, oh, this should be pretty straightforward. Obviously, it wasn't exactly straightforward. Once I went to the hardware store and got a couple of bolts and nuts, everything was fine. The nuts that they had there, they didn't have any locking nuts at my particular hardware store, you know, the ones that have the plastic inside there that locks on there when I bought them. So I just bought regular nuts. I am going to have to get some locking nuts to put on there eventually. But I got to say, man, the bike looks really good with these on here. As a matter of fact, the pictures that you're seeing right now include the Irv Labs Urban Basket, and I've also filmed a video that I will show you how that all goes on. I gotta tell you, man, I love these bikes, but they're not without things that you have to maintain and stuff on them, so you have to keep that in mind. And when you go to put something on your bike, it's never exactly straightforward, is it? I don't know, maybe sometimes, but more often than not, it's not straightforward. And hopefully by seeing my mistakes, you can prevent them from happening to you. If you're into this e-mobility stuff, I know I have other content on this channel, but I will have an e-mobility playlist. You can subscribe to that. I think you can subscribe to a playlist. Either way, I want to thank you so much for your support here on the channel, and I've got tons more of this e-mobility stuff on the way. Likes, comments, shares, subscriptions are going to help ensure that the channel will stick around. So if you like what you see, give the video a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed yet, there's a red subscribe button down there. Click that and the notification bell, and you'll get notifications when I upload new videos. Again, I want to thank you, and that's going to do it for this episode. We'll catch you next time on the Vapor Trail channel.